What's up, everyone? This is May and Erica from the Office of Health Promotion. Welcome to our new podcast, Breaking the Barriers, a podcast that presents our community at UAlbany the opportunity to bridge the gap between students, faculty, and staff to talk and shed light on different experiences that affect our health, well-being, and overall journey of life as individuals that are part of this big community. Throughout these episodes, you'll hear from myself and other wonderful students, faculty, and staff on a wide range of topics that may pique your interest and be helpful to you in your time as a student and even beyond. I'm very excited to bring this podcast to you all, and I hope that everyone who listens will retain one thing that could be of help and use to them. Today's episode will be on navigating postgrad, whether undergrad or graduate school, and thinking about different ways that you can support yourself or create a supporting community around you. Before we get into today's episode, just want to give the two guests that I'm with the opportunity to introduce themselves and just tell us a little bit about them. And one fun fact.
Hello, everyone. My name is Katrina. I am an MP student, Master's of Public Health student at the School of College of Integrated Sciences. I am an epidemiology student and maternal child health certificate student. I live on the Uptown campus at the University at Albany, but I'm originally from New York City, and I love exploring and seeing new things out there.
Hello, everyone. My name is Christine Bozlock, and I'm an associate professor in the Health Policy Management and Behavior Department in the College of Integrated Health Sciences, formerly known as the School of Public Health. I also co-direct our maternal and child health program, and I've been at the University at Albany for 12 years. And I think a fun fact about me is that I have flown 2 small planes in the past, but don't worry, I had an official instructor with me during those flights.
Thank you both for being here with me on this episode. Very privileged to have you in my presence. So before we get started, I just want to give some highlights of what the structure will be like today. So you'll hear us all asking each other different questions about the topic that we have, and essentially just breaking down what we think would be some useful tips to take. So why don't you get us started off, Christine?
Great. Thanks, Manny. So I have a question for both of you. In thinking about making a transition from school to the next steps in your career, as recent graduates, and also for Kat, who's preparing to graduate again and transition again, what have been some things that you have thought about during the transition process?
So one of the biggest things that I've been thinking about is where I want to be and how do I get there. I know I want to move back to New York City after I graduate, so the question is, how do I make that happen? One of the key steps was definitely networking, specifically in New York City. This would open doors for new opportunities for me, and who knows, maybe I might land my dream position through a connection.
Yeah, just to piggyback off what you said, Kat, I think a big thing for me was just trying to set myself up to be in a position where I'm not stressed about how I'll be able to eat or just survive in general. So a lot of what I did was not only rooted in connecting with my advisor and just talking to other people about my field in particular and the different career paths that I could embark on, but just really centering myself and understanding that this is such a pivotal moment for me. So anything that could benefit me in this process is useful. So just being open to advice that I could receive, and also being open with the questions I ask people, because I never really had a struggle just being open with the answers that I got after I started with that first step of vulnerability. So I'll say that's what it was for me.
That's great. And Kat, what have you done to manage, stress during the transition process? I know you already have your bachelor's degree, so you've gone through this process before, and you decided to pursue graduate studies after that. And so now you're getting ready to make another, transition. So how have you managed stress during the transition process?
Yeah, grad school can be very tough. One of the things that I definitely did was not being afraid to take a step back. And I've definitely decided that I was going to set time aside in my day to take a walk, to exercise, and really get my blood flowing and clearing my brain so that I'm able to actually think clearly and return back to the tasks that I usually have to do. And that has been very helpful. I want to say don't be afraid to take time for yourself because you need it.
It's really great. And excellent advice. And I think that students who to do those things definitely manage the stress of the transition better. So kudos to you for doing that self-care and putting yourself first during this time.
Yeah, definitely agree with that answer in some capacity, Kat. I think for me, a big thing was every time I would be in a situation of stress, I would zone in on that moment. So I think a big thing that I tried to do was always look at my life in a holistic lens and not just in that one moment, and what exactly my goals were, what my why was, and using that to inform me in terms of, okay, this might be something that's stressing me out right now, but there's so much more that I want to see in life, that I want to accomplish, that I know this day won't define on its own. So just always recentering myself and knowing that my life isn't just defined by this one moment, but it's a multitude of things that define me. So,
absolutely. And I also think that the transition period is both stressful, but it can be a time of eustress or, good stress and happy stress because you're excited about what's to come next. And it's about kind of balancing that, right? And also just, I think, allowing yourself to feel what you're feeling during that time and talk to your peers. I've seen a lot of students over the years who feel like they're the only ones that are feeling that way during the transition period, but I have so many conversations with students who are getting ready to graduate and also alumni who come back and say, I want to talk about the transition, making another transition. And the biggest thing to keep in mind is that you're not alone. So many people are experiencing those same feelings you are. And, reach out to your peers, reach out to your friends, reach out to your faculty and staff and share how you're feeling, because you will hear stories from other people who have those same feelings, and you can support one another, and people want to support you. So just a lesson learned as being a faculty member here for the last several years.
Just thinking about how you started to bring in the faculty perspective. Kat, do you want to lead us into our next question?
Yeah, definitely. So the faculty at school is very pivotal in the transition process for students. And Christine, I wanted to ask you, can you give the faculty perspective on the best ways for students to prepare to make the transition from school to the next career step?
Yes, absolutely. It's a great question, Kat. And I think, like with anything else, whether it's a course or making a transition in your life or taking on a big project, the key is to start early. So look at the transition process just like any other major project you're getting ready to embark on. Don't save things for the last minute. I would say, start thinking about the transition months in advance. It doesn't mean that you have to take major steps. Those little steps of starting to have conversations with people and talking to peers, talking to faculty, talking to staff, and sharing your interests and your goals and doing that networking early really pay off. I think that the students that I have seen who have made really successful transitions at graduation, they started months in advance. They had conversations with mentors and faculty, staff, and again, their peers. I think oftentimes students don't realize that their peers and their friends are great networks for them. But share your goals. Just say, can I have a casual conversation with you? And just tell you and kind of articulate where I want to go with my career and get your feedback. And I think half the time when I'm having conversations with students making the transition, I'm actually just being a sounding board, and I'm listening to what they're saying, and I feed it back to them so they can hear, what they're saying, so they can hear their goals back to them. And then just through that process, they're thinking about ways to make next steps. I do think that if you're graduating in May, whether you're an undergraduate student or a graduate student, start this process in the fall, start having conversations, doing some networking, and you should be networking, I think, throughout your whole time here. But then over winter break, take the time to really refine your resume and your cover letter if you plan to apply for jobs and you want to get a job or have a job ready for you once you graduate. I think it's not too early to start applying for those jobs in, say, February and definitely March. It can take months to be hired in a position. Even if you are the number one, top applicant, it can take months to go through the HR process. So it's definitely not too early to start working on your resume, cover letter, have it all ready to go during the winter break period of time, get feedback on those items, ask faculty, ask your advisor, ask others to take a look at them. And then when you see those job opportunities popping up that you want to apply for in the early spring semester, you're ready to go with those materials. And because students get really busy during the last semester of their undergraduate program or their graduate program. So, it's really hard, I think, to put together those materials at the last minute and then be ready to apply simultaneously to, doing your regular coursework and things. So the major piece of advice I would say is definitely don't procrastinate. I know that when we're stressed, sometimes we procrastinate and we don't want to, take some actions because we don't necessarily want to confront whatever it is, the task before us. But the earlier you start, the less stressed you will be, the more prepared you will feel to make that transition, and the more people there will be to support you during that process.
Wow, a lot of great points there, Christine. And I know as we've been talking, we've been highlighting connections a lot. We've been highlighting being able to have mentors in your space or being able to have people that you can trust with the questions and the concerns that you have. So thinking about our community at UObany, this is a question to both you, Kat, and Christine. What is one thing you think students can do to establish connections during their time at UObany to help during the transition period?
Yeah, I definitely want to piggyback off Christine. Great points. And I definitely took all of those in my last year in my MPH program. And so what I want to say is building your network is incredibly important, not just during your time in college, but also afterward. You want to start early and you also want to continuously be networking. It doesn't have to be complicated. It could literally just be going to office hours and talking to your professors. And if your class is asynchronous, you could just send your professor an email and introduce yourself. Even small things like creating a study group with classmates can be very simple or overlooked ways of making meaningful connections.
Great. And I would just say, think about connections throughout your time at University at Albany. It's really helpful if you've established great connections with faculty and staff and administrators, during your entire time. So if you're in a classroom, even if you're a freshman and just starting out, or you're the first year, in your master's program, really look at your peers and look at your faculty member as people that are going to support you, hopefully, for many years to come. Oftentimes I have students who really take the opportunity to make sure I'm getting to know them, during the class, but also they say things like, can we meet after class? And can I just talk to you about, the work you've done and your career? And can I start, having my conversations with you about the transition process, even, in my first semester of my first year? And I think that's really great. A lot of students ask me to be a reference for them for employment opportunities. And honestly, what I have to go on is how they have performed in the class and how they have engaged in the class and how their work has progressed, throughout the semester. And so really keep in mind that coming to class, being engaged in class, doing your best work is actually part of the process of helping you make the transition into the workforce. You're building a connection with someone who could be a very important reference for you for your next steps, whether you want to go on to additional schooling, education, you want to go into the workforce, you want to apply for a fellowship. And so be thinking of connections throughout your entire time in the university setting and maintain those connections. I stay connected to alum for many years after they graduate, and people do make job changes throughout their career. So I have students coming back after 10 years and saying, Christine, I want to talk to you about the next stage in my career. How do I make this transition? And, we go through the same steps again. So it's not, the time that you're spending with a faculty member during one semester, don't think about your relationship like that. Think about that can be a lifelong connection for you. And the faculty, staff here at the university really do want to support you, not just during your time here, but for the length of your career.
Really, really, really great points from the both of you. I appreciate you sharing on the topic of creating lifelong connections. And I just want to give a quick highlight of that. Throughout my time in graduate school, me being in Res Life, and now me working in the Office of Health Promotion, through my time in Res Life, I was able to cultivate a lot of relationships that helped me in terms of my job now. And the thing about it is, I didn't expect to be still working here. The fact that I was able to cultivate relationships in the first space that I was in allowed me to now have more assistance and help in the different areas of work that I want to do now. So definitely value relationship building throughout your process. Don't see it as just the opportunity to gain something, but just the opportunity to learn another vessel that you could potentially connect with in the future. So with all that being said, that concludes all the questions that we have today. So what's your final piece of advice that you would offer to someone who is navigating post-grad?
I have a really important tip to share to listeners, and that is, while you're working hard, it's also really important to know your why you want to do what you're doing. I think knowing your why keeps you motivated and confident when discussing your goals with others.
That's such a great point, Kat, and I absolutely would echo that. I think the one point I want to leave our wonderful listeners with is that please remember you're never alone. We are here, community at the University of Albany. We really are a community, and there are people that want to help you through this process. So again, I'll reiterate what I said at the beginning of the podcast. If you're ever feeling overwhelmed, please reach out to a trusted faculty member, a friend, a peer, a staff member, anyone, and just share your feelings, because others will be there to support you. There will be resources to support you. And the transition times in life, they've done a lot of research on this. It's a stressful time. Whether you're a child going from preschool to kindergarten, or a student going from middle school to high school, or going into college, transitions can be really hard, but they're very exciting too. So we hope you spend the time, celebrating your successes, look at all the things you've accomplished, and go into this process with confidence, but also with a support system around you, and knowing that there are people that care about you and want to help you succeed.
Yeah, and I think what I would say to end it off is just value the process. It's not only about the outcomes of the situation. Yeah, as we come to university and we learn and we pick our major and everything, it's easy to get caught up at the end of the tunnel or looking towards that. But you really want to make sure that you value the process and put yourself in the position where you're always in the present moment, because you never know what relationships, experiences that you may have may support you later on. So just be in the present moment, understand why you're here, and utilize that to motivate you through the end. And then when you get to the end, celebrate that, relish in it, and then continue forward. All right. It's been an honor to have this conversation. Thank you both to my guests, Kat and Christine, on this episode. In terms of just sharing your thoughts regarding navigating post-grad, the stress, and what are some key tips that you can utilize. Now, to all the listeners, thank you for tuning in to Breaking the Barriers. I can't wait till you hear our next episode.